did you get started in this whole thing?
How did I get started? Well, I truthfully, Vivo Team is simply an extension of multiple solopreneur and
Yeah.
entrepreneur ventures. This is my fifth doing it on my own kind of thing. But I would say that it really started with my first entrepreneurial venture, which is I'm a registered interior designer slash interior architect from the US, and meaning that that was the certification in the
Right.
US. And I started a small boutique interior design company in Toronto, Ontario, and it built out to being on the west coast of Canada in Vancouver, where I was doing big box retail. And so retailers might have 100 locations, and I was making sure that the customer experience was an enjoyable customer experience, no matter if you were at a small, like little iteration of the big box or you were actually at the big box
Right.
designing systems manuals and all of the architectural design and marketing elements. And that required me to lead teams, to participate on teams. And that's where my passion came from. I realized what is going on? Like, why does one team, they can pick up the key and unlock collaboration in a heartbeat, and another team is just in conflict or constantly like blindly looking for the solution? How do we actually work together? And I think Vivo Team is an expression of that deep rooted passion, which is kind of my job, I guess, in my life
Mhm.
to figure that out. And so at Vivo Team, we have figured that out. We use behavioral analytics to measure team productivity and the gaps between leader effectiveness and team effectiveness. We work with the soft skills and leadership acumen. And we have a methodology where then we help our clients solve the problems that are noted in the reporting that we're doing. And so it's been an evolution of a number of different
Yeah.
companies and leading a number of teams to get here, and so here we are.
Well, that's not a small thing you've done.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of forget every now and then.
Is this a journey, or is there ever a point in your life as an entrepreneur where you say, "Okay, I'm good where I'm at now," or are we
Yeah, no.
always thinking to say, "What's next?"
Yeah, it's funny. I hear that word journey a lot. I don't think of um my career as a journey. I think of my career as a number of problems that I have viewed, and I'm interested in solving the problems. And each problem has cascaded me into the next way. So it's sort of been an evolution. I know people love the word journey. I don't like it that much because journey to me is like I'm going on a trip and I want to eat pasta in Italy and then I want to go to Greece and eat Greek salad kind of thing. Like I know where I'm going and I'm kind of going along the way and something. But this has been a very different dynamic of just solving a series of problems, really.
It's pretty cool. When you tackle something, a new project, for example, do you always try to find the problem first, or do you say, here's a solution I have for whatever, and then find the problems?
Yeah. Do I find the problem first and then build a solution? I think really with Vivo Team, we probably did it differently than in other
Mhm.
background contexts. So what I would say that if people go through a design education such as I did, we are trained as professionals to go through a design problem solving or design thinking, shall we say, methodology, right? Where you have the concept and then you develop the concept and then you implement the concept and then you review something like that. Like there'll be variations of the theme. So I think that as a professional, I was always educated on creating some sort of workflow on that process. With Vivo Team, truthfully, I was frustrated. 12 years ago, I was frustrated, and I was frustrated that I was walking into my clients. I was doing some particular piece of business, which I can explain in a minute, as a consultant in learning and development, working with C suite executives. And I would turn around and I'd hand in my invoice when I was done. And what I realized was C suite executives had no way to measure what I was doing and what the impact had. And I found that very frustrating. I also found it frustrating that they were paying my invoice and I knew what I had done, but I didn't think they actually could latch on to it, or the people that I was working with could latch on to it. So to describe that a little bit more, um, 12 years ago, out of that frustration, I said, there is a problem. Now, how do we disrupt that problem? How do we find a solution? And because we chose to be a very evidence-based learning and
Hmm.
development company, we took 2 years to research what would the workplace of 2020 look like. Well, here we are in 2022, and we took a good guess, Zach. I'm going to say at that point, 12 years ago, it's really what we call a swag, a scientifically wild ass guess. You're going to go with it or you're not going to go with it. We actually right now have a great partner in the US, Opus Partners. And when I first started meeting the ownership of that partnership, the gentleman said to me, you know what? We're in the same swimming pool. I took a different guess. I made a different scientifically wild ass guess, and it didn't work with COVID and what things are going. So, that, I mean, there's always the gift in the bad news, right? Now they've joined forces with us, and together we're collaborating and we're solving problems.
I love it.
So it was a little bit more specific on this one.
If I'm an organization, I think, okay, my staff are doing what they need to do. They go home, they work from home, they're hybrid, whatever you want to call it. How do you know my workplace is not productive? I mean, there's stats out there, especially on your website, that you said 500
Mhm.
billion is lost every year due to employee disengagement. Now, what does
Yes,
that
that's
mean?
right. That's right. So let's take Zach. Let's take this situation. So you go to work every day, come home at the end of the day, and you've worked perhaps an 8 hour day, perhaps a 10 hour day.
Hmm.
You're a knowledge worker. You come home, you get home, and the first thing you want to do is open up a bag of salt and vinegar chips, sit on your couch because you're exhausted. That's a direct and significant illustration that your workplace is fatiguing you. There's some sort of chaos, there's some sort of conflict, there's some sort of, ugh, we're just not making decisions. We're just not making decisions quickly. We're not getting things done. There's a lack of accountability. Maybe we're more nice and we could be more respectful of one another, something like that. So those notions start this sort of internal power struggle for anyone on a team. And as we know, when teams are not aligned to we're doing great work, and we are finishing projects on time and our customers are happy, nobody likes that. None of us like to be on the D team. We all want to be on the A team. Well, at some point, managers are going to go to HR and they're going to say, I got a problem. Maybe we have emotional intelligence problem, or we have a communication problem, or people have left and I don't know why they're leaving. All of these pieces of the puzzle start to alert the corporation that now we need to think about our people as an important invisible balance sheet. They're the people that are driving project completion, and we're not looking at what they need more of. And I think really COVID has put the lens on this because yeah, right. Because I think at when COVID hit and people had to go to a lockdown situation and managers were separated from their employees, corporations realized two things. Number one, managers had been managing by observation, not by accountability. Zach, you look really busy. You must be really busy,
Yeah,
but I can see you across the way out of my glass window in
yeah,
my glass side light in my office, right? Zach's looking busy. He was here early this morning and he's
yeah.
leaving late. He's busy. God, yeah, top down. Versus is Zach really getting projects done with his coworkers and performing great results? The second thing that corporations started to realize is we have been spending more time looking at the financials of the organization, the technical skills, the revenue, the profit, which is our number based
The bottom line.
balance
Yeah.
sheet. The bottom line is the number based balance sheet. We haven't been looking at the invisible balance sheet of retention, attrition, engagement, We haven't been looking at these factors
So
because
that's more the EQ element.
some more of the EQ. It's the soft skill competencies. And everyone who gets fired, you go question 10 of your friends. Anyone who gets fired, they get fired because of the lack of emotional intelligence, not because of their lack of hard skills. So what we're doing at Vivo Team is we're providing really practical solutions for managers and team members to first understand
Mhm.
by surveying them where productivity is stuck. It could be with ineffective communication. It could be with meetings that go over and over and over, or meetings don't start on time because three people are late and nobody's holding them accountable to being on time, those kinds of things. All of these little pebbles in the shoe, shall we say, start to erode productivity. That has a direct cost to the bottom line. But when we offer them the behaviors and the permission of perhaps languaging that or messaging that differently to their coworkers or to um, their up leading their manager or down leading to their direct reports, they have tools that nobody's ever taught them before,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like I just had a situation this week where a woman, was saying, I'm not going to tell team members on my team how to manage their inbox. Well,
Why
when
not?
people are get or yeah, like when people and she said, because I manage it differently than other people manage it, whatever. And I said, well, okay, if people are getting 600 emails a day and they're spending 3 hours of their time answering emails, we've got a problem, a productivity problem. As the leader, it's your responsibility to be less nice and more respectful and to figure out with your team, brainstorm one, two, or three norms on emails, get subject lines more specific, or, um, have put into the two who's actionable and into the CC who supports the action and only the people in the
Mhm.
BCC to
Right.
be informed, but have some norms of email so that you can decrease the number of emails. Though people can be diverse with how they put their folders together and everything, but if as a team we have some consistent behavior and we can align to those, that's where we start to see the sort of, alignment happening
Mhm.
and productivity happening. I'll tell you a funny story. Another one. I had a buyer, and he said, Renee, I got a bunch of horses. They're all running in different directions. My problem is I don't know how to talk to a horse. How many managers and leaders are out there really not understanding how to work with the human beingness of their team to get them all running in the same direction, right?
Yeah, everyone's got their own stuff that they're dealing with. I mean, we all dealt with the pandemic globally. Um,
Yep.
Now, psychologically, you know, your true colors come out after the pandemic of who you really are
Mhm.
and what you want. And I think we're seeing this more than ever before, where individuals are saying, you know what? Yeah, I might make $30,000 less, but I'd rather spend time outside if I'm done my work early and I've achieved things because we were so used to being in this rat race of you call someone, oh, it's just been so busy. Life, it's so busy.
Yeah.
What is busy? Like, how is that a cool word to use? It became such a normal thing to say that people were thinking, wow, that guy's so busy, so cool, or she's so cool because they're so busy. How do we change that narrative from, I don't know, he's so productive instead of saying I'm so
Yeah.
busy?
Well, I think let's go back to the salt and vinegar bag of chips on the couch at the
Hmm.
end of the day. If now during my work day, I'm working more collaboratively with different subject matter experts on a team. We're holding one another accountable. We're giving one another great feedback. It's not just coming from our manager, but it's coming from each other. And we have meetings that we actually would like to line up at the door to be in the meeting, but we haven't been invited to that meeting, but we want to get into that meeting. That's starting to shift the engagement and the productivity within the organization. Now,
Right.
if that individual goes home and has more energy in their tank and can take their daughter out to the park and play
Mhm.
soccer and feel good, then we're disrupting not only how we are in our professional acumen, but how connected we are in our families. So it's this sort of cycle that goes around personally and professionally. I think before COVID as well, people viewed, I think because corporate cultures were fragmented perhaps, that when I enter the threshold of the office, I become a different person.
Yes.
Well, no, we don't. No, we don't. Then when you go to your kitchen door, when you get home, do you become a different person? No, not really. You've just carried on the grumpiness from your workday to your
Mhm.
wife, right? So if we can shift and realize that we bring our whole person and our whole profession to each day, and we're willing to have the energy and the focus to be respectful instead of to be tippy-toeing around one another
Right.
by using our soft skills because we're competent to use our soft skills,
Mhm.
then that's kind of cool,
Mhm.
right?
Can EQ be trained? Is it nurture or nature?
Yeah, EQ can be trained. Absolutely. If you think of the elements, like these are the elements that we talk about with EQ. Self-awareness. Am I aware? Like just what I just said about that. Like, am I aware that I've gone home at the end of the day and I've grumped out on my daughter and my wife, right? Like, am I aware? Do I have the emotional awareness that, something's unsettled? That's where it
Mhm.
starts. Now, how do I manage that awareness of my emotions? So maybe what I do is, okay, think about it now from hybrid. Think about, George has an office in the house beside the bedroom and walks to the kitchen, right? He doesn't have a lot of transition time. Maybe George, to manage his stress level, needs to actually walk around the block before he gets to the kitchen with mom, with his wife and the daughter, so that he can just breathe and manage his emotions. The third thing is empathy. Do I actually have empathy for myself that this has been a busy week? And I'm actually stressed. And do I carry that empathy for myself then out to others? Do I see that my wife has had a busy week because
Mhm.
that our daughter hasn't been playing soccer for 2 weeks because she broke her ankle and the daughter's in pain or whatever? Do I absolutely have the ability to have empathy for self and empathy for other? And then the fourth piece, can I utilize my social skills to have a conversation about that? Can I reveal to my wife with a glass of wine, wow, I'm stressed and I'm sorry, I'm being a bit grumpy?
Mhm.
Do I have the tools to do that? Do I know how to come forward with that? Or am I going to hide and hope that she doesn't see it?
Right.
And then with regards to leader assertiveness, do I then the next morning go into work and just say, look, everyone, I've got to cancel the 9 o'clock meeting. I'm 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 overloaded and I need to actually get a few top priorities done. Let's just book that meeting out till tomorrow at 10 or something. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
all of these elements of emotional intelligence are behaviorally based. And if we give people the tools to change their behavior and the understanding of where their team is not uh, utilizing their what we call skills or competence in emotional intelligence, they don't have the will or motivation to make a change, they're in turn not collaborating with one another. Right. So once you start to see those dials, give people tools to change it, great. I think when, if we go back to the whole idea of disruption, when we looked 12 years ago at the workplace in 2020, um, we were starting to realize that leaders were very much trained on theoreticals. So you're, let's say, a middle manager, you're 49 years old. It's the first time the company was actually investing in you to make sure that you could be set up for best success to get to the director level and to train others and then to get to the strategic table, right? But that was too late and it was a one and done and there was a lot of forgetting curve in it. So by where was I going to go with this? It was this whole idea of disrupting. Oh yeah, far too theoretical. Like people just truthfully, if you look at a leader or a manager and you think they're not very good, it comes down to skill and competence, and they just haven't been served up with the right practical tools to make a change. Once they are, generally they're hungry for it and they're into it. They want to get
Right.
going,
But do
right?
they share it, and does that skill set and what they've learned trickle down oftentimes, or does they because that person's climbing up the invisible ladder, the so-called ladder, at the end of the day, we're all the same, is what I say. But, we're climbing up this ladder. There's ego with titles. That happens oftentimes. So they believe, well, I don't need to share not everybody, but there are some, actually quite a few in the corporate world that don't pass those skills on because now I am a somebody, quote unquote.
You're right. You're a somebody, and let's look at the problems of you being somebody. You've probably done a few self-assessments.
Hmm.
And so now somebody's put you in a box. You're a green hat, you're a red hat, you're an ENTJ. Well, okay. You just told me I'm in that box. I guess I'll just stay in that box. Ugh. As a leader of an organization, the last thing I want is that all of my team members are in boxes and they can't get out of those boxes. That's
Hmm.
problem number one. You're right. Leader and leadership investment has generally been put at the higher levels within the
Right.
organization to get them up higher. It's a one and done, and it's extracted from the direct reports. So now George comes back to work for that 8 a.m. meeting, and George has changed his behaviors around how we're going to do meetings around here. And I'm on George's team, and I'm like questioning why all of a sudden the change? Well, George has been off at a training session, right? So again, what we do at Vivo Team is we look at not putting people in a box. We look at a family systems theory of the leader and the team together. And while the leader is doing the training, we give all of the direct reports small curated insights into what the leader is learning. So now, oh, I see you're changing your behavior. And last week, Vivo Team just sent me this one pager, and I see that we're doing something called the direct ongoing swift encounter at the top of the meeting. Thanks, George. I got the information last week, right? So it's again that full circle, family systems
Collaborative.
theory, collaborative, bring everybody up to speed. And as well for us at Vivo Team is our way to create fast change and scale it within the organization to get that viral conversation about different ways of behaving going
Mhm.
on.
How do
We
you?
had somebody last week came into a group coaching session, and they'd been in a program for a while, and they said to the coach, what did you do with those two guys? They're completely different. That's what we want to hear, right?
How do you track change in an organization?
Yeah, well, we track it with behavioral science. So what we're looking at, our algorithm is tracking factors of competence, factors of will or motivation, and factors of collaboration. So we use a survey input where the team and the leader are quantifying the demonstrated behaviors that they see going on a regular basis. It either is or it isn't.
Hmm.
So they quantify that. Then we pull an aggregate against what we call our 6 key indicators of highly functioning teams, which is how effectively are we communicating? How are we holding one another accountable? How do we have great structures in place for decision making and meeting organizations? How do we have the structures in place? Maybe even Slack that we can integrate with one another. How do we measure or know who are the subject matter experts on the team? That's cohesion for us. That we know who to lean on when we need that individual on the project. And then as well, interactive feedback, which is all about helping people understand what behaviors have a positive impact on the project result or what behaviors erode the project result or the collaboration. And the last one you mentioned, which we went through, which is emotional intelligence. So we do it through a survey input. We aggregate the data. So we're really listening to all of the people on the team tell us what's going on around here. And in addition, at the end of the survey, all participants have the opportunity to weigh in on how effective their leader is based on the leader
Right.
behaviors that they see. And the leader has the opportunity to assess their awareness. And so what we drive up is a leader effectiveness score illustrating the gap between perception and awareness. So when
Hmm.
a leader has that kind of information, they can just focus on one or two things, right? They're not confused again with I've got 10 people on my team and each one of them has a different green hat, red hat, blue hat. How do I get them to work together? We're actually saying, hey, Mr. Leader, these are the two behaviors that if you change them, you'll come into greater alignment with the perception of your team. And that will help you move those other indicators that we've talked about.
Super cool. When you look at leadership today versus what it was 10 years ago or 12 years ago when you started,
Mm-hmm.
are we on the right direction?
I think we fast tracked
Yeah.
what our research showed would happen. So, what I mean by that is one of the biggest forces that we knew and why we do
Mhm.
everything digitally is we knew that 5 generations would sit side by each, and we knew that projects would get completed globally. So, we knew that distributed teams would go beyond, someone's on the first floor and somebody's on the third floor of a business, that it would be somebody's in Germany and somebody's in British Columbia or something. COVID has really springboarded that. I think it's just such a fantastic time for young emergent leaders right now in their mid 30s to mid 40s who have the opportunity, depending on their family situation, to be anywhere in the world and to drive, as knowledge experts, to drive projects anywhere. It's exciting. So leadership has changed in that way, and that puts demands on leaders to connect at a higher level. So I would say that if anything has changed, it's that deep connection.
Mm,
Leaders and managers can't go on a shallow level and just let people fly without deeply understanding what they need for their mental wellness, for their professional acumen, for their career achievement. Um, that's what I would say.
mm.
Yeah,
Do you
it's
think people
shifted.
will just leave or employees will just leave now because they have choices? Because haven't we always
No,
had a choice?
we've always had a choice. So I live 7 months of the year in Barbados and 5 months of the year in the mountains of British Columbia. I knew that when we built this business to be all virtual, everything is done. Sales, delivery, operations, everything is done virtually. We're across Canada. I knew when we built this company that that would give me a freedom to travel and to work because I'm the type of person I'll probably not retire for some time. I want to work for a long time.
I feel like you have
But
all
I
this
could,
fire in you and ideas, and you're ready to keep going. Yeah.
yeah, keep going. Exactly. But I can keep going and have a lifestyle that suits me. When my husband and I are in Barbados, we hear people say, I've always wanted to do that. I've just not done it. Well, it's the opportunities here. Why not? Just pack a laptop, pack a small bag, let go of everything and just get going, right? But people choose their comfort. They like to be
Anchored.
anchored and by their little coffee shop or whatever that is. And that's okay for them. That's great. There's different choices for different people.
What made you decide, or you and your husband to decide we want to be nomads and just chase memories and experiences, um, most oftentimes rather than just things?
Yeah, I think that really the driving factor to that is we're both intellects. We both love working. We both love what we do. But also we're foodies and we love to travel. And we are at an age where we want to experience our freedom like we never have before.
Mhm.
So
Why
those are
not?
pretty
Yeah,
compelling factors to
absolutely.
to
Uh,
get to let go of some stuff and
yeah,
get on with it, right?
yeah. Where in
Yeah.
British Columbia are you guys living?
Well, we again, digital nomads, we're in Whistler. We have a home in on the North Shore of British Columbia. We're not in our home. We rent our home
Yeah,
so that we can do this. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Have you seen in this hybrid model more leaders are saying, you know what, let's introduce programs to our employees because they're all working remotely. We don't even have a touch on them anymore. We can't touch them.
Well, they better. They should. They need to. They need to have a touch on them and a digital touch on them. At Vivo Team, we've been 10 years. We've been across 4-hour time zone. We have people in Halifax, people in Toronto, people in British Columbia. Not a day goes by. You could call any one of my team members and say, "Where's Renee?" or, "Where's
Mhm.
Aaron?" Everybody knows where everyone is at any given time because we put the structures in place because we have to know where one another is to get projects done. It's just a matter of having a discipline and holding people accountable and having the structures in place. And yet, There's a lot of freedom for them to make the
Hmm.
decisions in their role that they need to make, and there's a lot of freedom for them to have their dog on their lap or, give birth to a baby and, um, have the baby or have the young children coming into the office. Like that's what business is looking like now,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny
It's very
because
different.
we saw Google a few years ago start having slides in their offices and bean bags, and
Mm.
it was a very different vibe. And I think people were confused at first. Is this what millennials want? But you know what? I think it's what everybody wanted down the line. Maybe not the bean bags exactly, but more of that freedom, that letting
Yeah, and
go.
I think it is different now because there was a lot of judgment on that
Yes.
of, are you doing that so I'm working later? And so my child's in daycare, but does that mean I get into work now earlier, or
Hmm.
there's a concert coming in on a Thursday night that I'm still at work waiting for the concert to start. There was a lot of judgment on that. But now when we're in our homes, it's our connection to our family and our connection to our community that is offering the flexibility for those employees, right? So it's a little bit different.
Renee, I started this in January 2021, the Canadian podcast, and I was just thinking about it. If the pandemic didn't happen and I asked people to join Zoom, I would have probably got a no. Like, what the hell's Zoom? Like, no, thank you. I'm not
Mhm.
interested. I don't want to learn it. We were forced to utilize Zoom.
You were
There's.
forced. However, we made the decision to use
Mhm.
Zoom.
Yes.
And what's interesting is when we started out, it wasn't Zoom, it was another product, which we don't need to mention right now.
Yeah.
Um, but what was interesting is I had a different experience because when COVID hit and now everybody was online, I realized that I hadn't been aware of the fact that, for instance, just in sales, I've only met 5 of my customers in 10 years because I've been doing everything virtually, right? Because like as a buyer that I had in Switzerland said to me in 2021, Renee, I want you to teach our sales team how to sell. And I said, why? I'm in leadership and development. And he said,
Yeah.
you've sold a lot of business to me and I've never met you. And I want
Oh
all
my
my
God.
salespeople to know how to do this. But my point is that I was kind of like, well, this is how we do it. We just get
Mhm.
online. This is really effective. And then when people were complaining about, oh, I'm in meetings all day long, and I was like, wow, I've been doing this for 8 years. And the other part of that is I realized in that moment, well, you know what? I probably did lose some business because somebody was in their office face to face and I hadn't been, right?
Mhm.
But it just depends how you use the tool.
I mean, yeah, the entire podcast, I think we're on 123 episodes, so 123 individuals. Not one has been in person.
Yeah, there you go. There you have it. It's really cool.
And
And so you know what I love about that too is technology and also obviously global trends have us now utilizing technology in a different way and more quickly. Possibly it pushed us into those situations. What I find fascinating is how many people still want to go backwards. I don't want to watch a black and white TV without a remote control, quite honestly,
no. But maybe they
right?
don't mean backwards, like all the way there, but I think I can see
Oh,
what
but
you're saying.
yeah, they want to go, I gotta be,
Flip
I
phones.
can't really, yeah,
Yeah, I just don't think we
whatever it
should be
is.
having emails accessible. I think there's a new rule. France has something where you can't email us over the weekend or after a certain time in the evenings. Organizations cannot do that anymore.
Oh, yeah, no, that's actually in Ontario as well. There's a rule on that, which is kind of the blur effect rule. But anyway, one of the things that I didn't
Mhm.
mention, but I'd love to mention is that anybody listening to this podcast, if they do want to like try our analytics, they can actually go to our website at vivoteam.com and try a little demo, and they can just answer a series of 10
Yeah.
statements, make
Okay.
some assumptions about a team, and they can get a report immediately
Oh,
sent to their inbox,
perfect.
which is kind of fun. And then they can always call us and talk to us. So,
Good.
yeah, I just think for leaders and managers, if you want to change your life, do things differently, or change the culture in the organization.
Well, I'll add it to the YouTube and the links here. But I appreciate your time today, Renee.
Yeah, I appreciate meeting you as well, and it's just great to see you with your cap on. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I
my
appreciate it.
pleasure.